Hello there, hi everybody. My name is Fiona Clarke and I am an English teacher. I have been for quite some time, nearly 25 years now, but recently I have had the pleasure of doing something a little bit different in the classroom with some children in various different schools. So I've stepped away from traditional full-time English teaching and created 7 creative writing projects to work on with groups of children, and the effects of these, the power of the arts, has been quite spectacular, something which I wasn't anticipating. It has certainly been interesting to see how creative writing has been able to not only lift the spirits of children. A lot of the children I work with come from disadvantaged backgrounds for one reason or another, and it boosts their self-esteem, it increases their mental well-being and their confidence at school in their learning. I guess what I thought was going to happen was that their literacy would improve and the outcomes would be they would become more familiar with the genre that I was working on with them. They might obviously become more enthusiastic about English, but certainly those other benefits, the mental health benefits when working with pupils and the interest that they have got in their schoolwork, having increased as a result of the project, was something unexpected and amazing to see. So one of the projects that I do with pupils is we produce a poetry anthology together, and that is in my role as writer in residence, and I work with schools, tailor it to their themes if they have a particular theme going on, and we ask the pupils to become involved in the project. They all write a poem and they have it published in an anthology. That's a huge lift. To have their work published and for them to be able to share that, take it home, show their families, for the school to be able to share it as well with the community is great. This is one here, which is an anthology of poems from year 7 and 8 pupils, and there are some fantastic pieces of work in here. And this took a number of weeks of working with the pupils over a series of workshops. So when we saw the success of this and schools were starting to hear more and more about this, lots of people got in touch with me and asked if I could share the resources. And I was quite happy to do that, share the resources and give emails with resources in, worksheets, etc. But the actual essence of this practical writing, creative writing in schools, was really becoming very central to the idea that the arts could be very powerful to enhance the pupils' mental well-being and boost their confidence. It was no longer just about the literacy or the sonnet or the form of the poem or producing 14 lines in iambic pentameter. It was no longer about the actual crafting of the piece of work. It became about more than that. And what I did is I put together all of the resources for the project and 6 other projects and put them out in this book here. Okay, so if anybody is interested in doing those workshops, they're all in that book. There is an accompanying anthology which has got my poems in it, which goes with the practical guide as well. And when we think about the poems that the pupils write for this, sometimes the theme can be very personal and therefore it can be quite cathartic, the experience for the pupils. It is important to use these workshops as an opportunity to say to the pupils, I see you, we see you, the community and the school, and we hear you as well. And for the pupils to use this as a voice and a platform they are absolutely only going to share what they feel comfortable sharing. That is really key to all of this. And they must be very, very carefully guided through these projects. It is really important that they feel at ease and comfortable. The projects themselves do lead them gently into whichever genre or whatever activity they're going to complete. So when we think of writing, and we think of writing for well-being, we have creative writing, which might result in a very polished, finished piece of writing that the pupils have produced here. And then we have writing for well-being, which is the process of getting to that piece of work, where along the way, along those workshops, along that journey, we actually take each workshop to stop and to think, and yes, to explore the poetry form that we're looking at, or the literary side of it, and the literacy, but also to stop and acknowledge feelings that we're having along the way, and the power that the poetry has to heal, the recording of our thoughts and feelings about what it is we're writing about. And every pupil, for example, in this anthology, they all chose different topics, but the central idea here was it was about identity. And for some children, that was that they had a special hobby that they liked to do, or a special person in their life they wanted to write about, or a special pet. There was all types of different ideas came from pupils, and everybody was able to choose something they felt happy with. They were led on that journey, and it was very important for pupils to feel safe at each stage along the way. So this can be used with any pupils. It could be used in an after-school writing club that might be voluntary. It could be used as a treat or reward for pupils, so that you can have time for them to step away from their traditional lesson style and complete a project that will result in them improving on their confidence. Then when they return to lessons, their confidence is greater and their enthusiasm for learning is much greater as well. It could be used as, you could select pupils based on a particular need they might have. Like I've said, I have worked with groups of disadvantaged pupils before, and this has had a really positive impact on them, and they have been really, really very keen to pursue further projects, and I have gone back into schools for the second and third time to do further projects with the same groups of pupils. So there are a number of ways you can do this, and for me, I hope that we have an opportunity at this point in 2021 to start a discussion and then possibly move forward with the idea that we can, with creativity, change the way that we teach, the way that our learners learn, the way that we educate children, and that they can learn through these activities, through doing, through being creative, through considering their perspective on something, looking at a sonnet and learning how to write an anthology, putting all of that together and being part of that full process, but also actually having the time to stop and consider. Yes, there's the mechanics of it, the literature, but having time to consider the soft skills. So there might be teamwork involved. There might be having to consider perspectives and think about empathy and think about how other people might feel about certain angles of certain parts of their poem. And these are opportunities for the pupils to be seen and heard and to feel as if they have a voice, and just to have a bit of quiet time in school. Schools are very busy and pupils are always being encouraged and do your best, and results and targets and exam driven culture that we have. This is a shift away from that pressure, and it moves in the direction of, yes, we're going to learn. Yes, we have instruments here to help us improve our literacy. It fits in with the curriculum for English, but ultimately we are looking at the pupil as an individual person with thoughts and with feelings of their own, and that we stop and that we have time to listen to them. The group sizes for this are really quite key, and I have done this with groups of 30 in some schools where that was the only arrangement we could organise, but it does work much better if you can have, say, groups of 10 to 12, and that means that the person leading the project can have individual time with individual pupils to sit and to really listen. It's not necessarily always about shaping their poem, putting your stamp on it. It is letting them tell you how they've arrived at their poem. And yes, they may require help with some synonyms, word choices, some grammar or syntax, and getting the iambic pentameter right if they are writing a sonnet. But ultimately, you are there to listen to their story and to learn and understand about where they are coming from. And from there, we can then get the absolute certain impression from that pupil that they've had somebody at school who has listened to a little part of their story and has invested in them. And in return, they will invest in the project. And when they see the amount of poems altogether in the anthology, and that they say they are now a published writer, it's a phenomenal effect. It is really quite spectacular. At the end of that 8-week project, those workshops every week leading up, and then you bring back the finished product to show them that they have actually produced an anthology of poems together. It is uplifting. It is quite something. And then the pupils to be able to take that home, and people saying, can I have 2 copies because I want to take one and show, my grandma as well and give her a copy. It really is quite something special, and it is tangible, the achievement of the pupils. So I want to use this as an opportunity to promote creativity, to promote creative writing, and to really put out there that there are chances now for educators to be able to change the curriculum and change the way that we have relationships with the pupils, instead of always imparting knowledge with them, making sure that we let the traffic come back this way and we also listen to them, understand a bit of their story, and really let them take part and take control of their poem and give them a chance to shape and mould that, and say it's okay if you want to, write about a particular topic. They are in control and can check what they put in, what they don't put in. And obviously, from my point of view, I check all of the poems at the end to make sure that they're all appropriate before they go out and they are published. There is I don't think we've ever had a time when a student has not had a poem published who has come to the workshops. It's been 100% success rate, and it's been a joy really for me to be able to be part of that. So back to The Leaf and the Pea. This is an anthology of my poems which I use with the pupils just to say, look, here's some of my poems. These are observational poems about all sorts of different things, and I'm going to share one of these with you and show you how a pupil animated the poem with some computer graphics. Okay, Thank you. Golden winter sunrise, beautiful dawn, sea smoke lingers over the river's top. A readying jogger leans, a stretch, a yawn. Early walkers peer in a closed bookshop. Waiting bus passengers, shoulders hunched high, rubbing their coarse woolly mitts to stay warm. Above their heads the bluest morning sky, where the murmurating starlings swarm. From steaming cups fresh coffee vapours drift. Garrulous friends walk and talk across town. Straight home to bed, head the night shift, as morning takes over and the night closes down. My city stirs, an urban cabaret, each new dawn the promise of a new day.